Tae-young wiped the sweat from his forehead and stared at the broken engine in front of him. The salvage yard stretched endlessly under the orange sky of New Haven, filled with the remains of old ships and forgotten machines. He had been working here for 3 years now, far from Earth, far from the memories that still haunted his dreams. The war had ended 7 years ago. Or rather, humanity had lost. The Korvath Empire came from the stars with weapons that turned cities to dust and ships that blocked out the sun. Tae-young had fought in the resistance, leading a small group of fighters who refused to surrender. They had won a few battles through tricks and courage, but in the end it wasn't enough. He tried not to think about those days anymore. New Haven was supposed to be a fresh start, a place where humans could rebuild without looking over their shoulders. The colony was small but growing, built from salvaged parts and human determination. People here worked hard and asked few questions about the past. Tae-young, Ji-won's voice crackled through his communicator. "We have a situation. Unknown ship approaching. It's Korvath." His blood went cold. Tae-young dropped his tools and ran toward the colony's main building. His heart pounded as memories flooded back. Korvath ships meant death. They meant fire and screaming and the smell of burning metal. When he reached the control center, Ji-won was already at the monitors. Her face was pale. "It's just one ship, small, a scout craft." She looked at him with worried eyes. "Tae-young, it's asking for you. By name." "That's impossible," he whispered. "How would they know I'm here?" Other colonists gathered around them, murmuring nervously. Everyone knew what Korvath meant. The alien empire had conquered Earth and dozens of other worlds. They didn't visit small colonies to chat. "Should we fire on it?" someone asked. "No," Tae-young said slowly. "If they wanted to destroy us, we'd already be dead." "Let me talk to them." Ji-won grabbed his arm. "This could be a trap." "Everything's a trap," he replied. "But running won't help." The Korvath ship landed in the clearing outside the colony. It was sleek and silver, much smaller than the warships that had attacked Earth. Tae-young walked toward it slowly, his hands visible and empty. Behind him, he knew colonists were watching through scopes, weapons ready. The ship's door opened with a hiss of air. A figure stepped out, tall and imposing. Korvath warriors were larger than humans, with tough gray skin and eyes that glowed faintly. This one wore no armor, just simple clothing. Silver markings ran down her arms and face. Tae-young's breath caught in his throat. He knew this warrior. He would never forget her. 7 years ago, during the final battle for Seoul, his unit had been surrounded. They fought until their ammunition ran out, then picked up whatever they could find. Tae-young had stood over his wounded friend, ready to die fighting. A Korvath warrior approached him, weapon raised, but she hadn't fired. She had stared at him, tilted her head, and lowered her weapon. Then she spoke one word in broken English. "Destiny." Before he could understand, other Korvath soldiers arrived and she walked away, leaving him alive. Now that same warrior stood before him again. "Tae-young," she said. Her voice was deep but clear. A small device on her collar translated her words into English. "I have searched for you for 7 years. "Why?" he asked. His voice was steadier than he felt. "Because you are my soulbound. We are connected by destiny, by forces greater than empires or wars. My name is Velthara, and I have come to find what I should never have left." Tae-young didn't know what to say. Soulbound, destiny, these were words from stories, not real life. "I don't understand." Velthara took a step closer. "Among my people there is an old belief. Sometimes two souls recognize each other, even across species, even across stars. It is rare, it is sacred. When I saw you fighting that day, protecting your wounded friend with nothing but broken metal and courage, I felt something I had never felt before: recognition, understanding, connection. You're saying we're connected? But you're Korvath. You invaded my world. You killed my people." "Yes," she said simply, "and I cannot change that. But I also could not kill you that day. My commanders ordered me to eliminate survivors, but I could not. Since then, I have searched for you. I left my post, abandoned my rank, and became what my people call a deserter. All to find you." Ji-won's voice crackled in his earpiece. "Tae-young, is this real? Is she serious?" He didn't answer. He was too busy remembering. That moment 7 years ago when their eyes met. He had felt something too, though he had never admitted it. In the middle of death and chaos, there had been a strange moment of understanding. Like meeting someone he had always known. "What do you want from me?" he asked quietly. "Nothing," Velthara replied. "I ask for nothing. I came only to tell you the truth. We are soulbound, whether you accept it or not. I will leave if you wish. But I had to find you. I had to know. Tae-young looked at this alien warrior who had traveled across the galaxy to find him. She stood alone, unarmed, having given up everything. For what? For a human she had met once during a war? Don't trust her, someone called from the colony. It's a trick! Maybe it was. Maybe this was some elaborate Korvath plan. But Tae-young remembered her eyes that day in Seoul. He remembered the confusion and wonder in them, as if she had seen something impossible. Stay, he said suddenly, at least for a while. We need to talk. Velthara's glowing eyes widened slightly. You believe me? I don't know what I believe, Tae-young admitted. But I remember that day too, and I remember wondering why you let me live. Maybe we should find out why. The colonists argued about letting a Korvath warrior stay in New Haven. Some wanted her locked up. Others wanted her sent away immediately. But Tae-young convinced them to give him time. If this was a trap, they would discover it. If it wasn't, then maybe they would learn something important. That night, Tae-young couldn't sleep. He sat outside his small house looking at the stars. Velthara's ship sat in the distance, dark and silent. Somewhere inside, an alien warrior who claimed they were connected by destiny was probably awake too. Ji-won found him there an hour later. She sat down beside him without speaking for a while. You really remember her? She finally asked. Yes, he said. I've thought about that moment 1,000 times. Wondered why she didn't kill me. Wondered what she saw. And now she's here talking about souls and destiny. I know it sounds crazy. Ji-won smiled slightly. Everything about the last 7 years has been crazy. Aliens invaded Earth, we lost. We survived. We built a new home on another planet. Why not add destined alien soulmate to the list? Tae-young laughed despite himself. When you put it that way, just be careful, Ji-won said, her smile fading. I trust your instincts, but she's still Korvath, and we're still human refugees living in the shadows. I know, Tae-young replied. I haven't forgotten. But as he looked at the stars, Tae-young felt something he hadn't felt in 7 years. Not just curiosity or confusion, but hope. Maybe, just maybe, something good could come from all the pain and loss. Maybe destiny wasn't just a word. Maybe, against all logic and reason, Velthara was telling the truth. The next morning, Tae-young found Velthara sitting outside her ship watching the sunrise. She didn't move as he approached, but he knew she had heard him. Korvath warriors noticed everything. Your star is smaller than the one over my homeworld, she said without looking at him, but the light is warmer. Tae-young sat down a few feet away from her. Tell me about this soul binding. What does it mean to your people? Velthara was quiet for a moment. We believe that some souls are created as pairs. Not romantic pairs necessarily, though it can be. More like two halves of one whole. A warrior finds their perfect tactical partner. A scholar finds their intellectual equal. When soul-bound individuals meet, they recognize each other instantly. They understand each other without words. And you felt this with me? During a battle? Yes, I was ordered to clear the area of survivors. When I found you, standing over your wounded friend with nothing but broken metal in your hands, I raised my weapon. But then I saw your eyes. I saw your determination. You knew you would die, but you didn't care. You would protect your friend until the end. She finally looked at him. In that moment, I understood you completely. Your tactics during the battle, your leadership, your refusal to surrender. I saw a warrior's soul. Tae-young remembered that moment too. The exhaustion, the fear, the absolute certainty that he was about to die. And then her face, her glowing eyes, and the strange feeling that she somehow knew him. Why didn't you kill me? He asked. Because you cannot kill your soulbound. It would be like killing part of yourself. My training, my orders, everything I had learned said I should eliminate you. But I couldn't. I left you there and reported that the area was clear. You lied to your commanders? Yes, and I have been searching for you ever since. When the war ended and your people scattered, I used every resource I had to track you. It took 7 years to find you on this small colony. They sat in silence as the sun climbed higher. Tae-young tried to understand what she was saying. He had spent 7 years trying to forget the war, and now it had found him again. But this time it came with answers to questions he had never asked out loud. What happens now? He asked. That depends on you.
I ask for nothing.
If you want me to leave, I will. But I hope you will let me stay, at least for a while, so we can understand this connection. Over the next few days, Velthara lived in her ship but spent time with the colonists. Most people avoided her. still afraid and angry about the war. But Jiwon, always practical, decided to ask her about Korvath technology. Soon they were discussing engine designs and power systems, finding common ground in their shared love of engineering. Tae-young watched Velthera carefully. She moved like a warrior, always aware of her surroundings, but she made herself small around the colonists. She never showed weapons. She spoke softly. She was trying not to scare them. One afternoon, while Tae-young was teaching her about human culture, alarms suddenly blared across the colony. Pirates. 3 ships appeared on the scanners, heading straight for New Haven. Everyone to defensive positions, Jiwon shouted over the speakers. The colonists scrambled to their posts. New Haven had some weapons salvaged and rebuilt, but not enough to fight off 3 pirate ships. Tae-young ran toward the armory, his old combat instincts kicking in. Velthera was suddenly beside him. I can help. Do you have weapons? In my ship. Better than anything here. But more importantly, I know how to fight. Tae-young made a quick decision. Get your weapons. Meet me at the northern wall. The pirates came in fast and confident. They had probably attacked dozens of colonies like this one. Small, poorly defended, easy targets. Their first shots hit the outer buildings, testing the defenses. Tae-young took command of the defense naturally, positioning people where they would be most effective. He had done this before during the war, turning weak positions into strong ones through smart tactics. Velthera arrived with a sleek Korvath rifle. She took position beside him on the wall. What is your plan? They'll try to land troops behind us. That building there, he pointed, has the best landing zone. Jiwon, move 3 people to cover that area. Velthera nodded. Good tactical thinking. They will expect you to defend only the walls, but you are preparing for multiple attack points. They have better weapons, Tae-young said. But we know this place. We know where to hide and where to shoot from. You fight like a Korvath warrior, Velthera said with approval, using advantages others cannot see. The battle began in earnest. The pirates landed exactly where Tae-young predicted, and his people were ready. But there were so many pirates, and they had powerful weapons. The colonists were getting pushed back. That's when something strange happened. Tae-young and Velthera started moving together without planning it. He would move left and she would cover right. He would reload and she would step forward. They fought like they had trained together for years, anticipating each other's actions perfectly. Behind you, Tae-young shouted, but Velthera was already turning, already firing. A pirate fell. 2 coming from the east, Velthera said calmly, and Tae-young was already aiming before she finished speaking. Jiwon, watching from the command center, felt chills. She had fought beside Tae-young during the war. She had never seen him work with anyone like this. It was like they shared one mind. The pirates began to retreat. They had expected an easy victory, not a well-coordinated defense. Within an hour, they fled back to their ships and jumped away into space. The colonists cheered. No one had died, and only a few were injured. Tae-young leaned against the wall, exhausted. Velthera stood beside him, not even breathing hard. That was impressive, she said. You commanded your people well. We fought well together, he replied. Like you said we would. Velthera looked at him seriously. Now do you understand? What I felt 7 years ago? That connection? Tae-young nodded slowly. I felt it too. During the battle. It was like I knew what you would do before you did it. That is the soul bond. We are tactical partners. We understand combat the same way. We think alike. That evening, the colonists gathered to celebrate their victory. For the first time, people approached Velthera willingly. They thanked her for helping defend their home. They asked her questions about her ship and her world. The fear began to fade, replaced by curiosity. Jiwon pulled Tae-young aside. I saw you 2 fighting. That was not normal. You moved together like you had been partners for years. I know, he said. I can't explain it. But she's right. There is something between us. Something real. So what now? I don't know. But I need to understand this. I need to know what it means. Later, Tae-young found Velthera on the wall looking at the stars again. He joined her in silence. After a while, she spoke. I left everything to find you. My rank, my honor, my place in Korvath society. I am now considered a deserter. If I return, I will be punished, possibly executed. Why would you risk that? Because being near you is worth more than all of that. The moment I saw you, my life changed. Everything I thought was important became meaningless. Only finding you mattered. Tae-young felt his throat tighten. She had given up everything for a human she barely knew, based only on a feeling. "I believe you," he said quietly, "about the soul bond. I felt it today, but I don't know what we're supposed to do about it." "We don't have to do anything," Velthara replied. "Just being near you is enough. But if you will allow it, I would like to stay, to learn about you, your people, your world, and perhaps you can learn about mine." Tae-young looked at her, this alien warrior who had crossed the galaxy for him. Despite everything, despite the war and the pain, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. "Not just understanding, but belonging. Stay," he said. "Stay as long as you want." The alarm began at 400 hours. The sound was sharp and loud, cutting through the darkness like a knife. Hana woke instantly, her heart pounding. The lights in the corridor outside were flashing red. Taemin was already awake. He grabbed his tools and ran to the door. "Stay here," he said to Hana. "What is happening?" Hana asked. "I do not know," Taemin said. "But it sounds bad." He ran out into the corridor. Hana followed him despite his order. She could not just sit and wait. The ship was shaking. She could feel the vibrations through the metal floor. Something was very wrong. Other workers were running through the corridors, panic on their faces. The alarm kept blaring. Over the ship's speakers, a mechanical voice repeated the same message. "Hull breach in Section 7. All workers evacuate immediately." "Hull breach in Section 7. Taemin stopped a passing worker. "What happened?" "Mining drill malfunction," the worker gasped. "Big explosion. Section 7 is sealed off. Dozens of people trapped inside." The worker ran off. Taemin stood still for a moment, thinking. Then he turned and started running toward Section 7. Hana ran after him. They reached the sealed bulkhead that separated Section 7 from the rest of the ship. A crowd had gathered there. Workers pressed against the metal door, shouting and crying. On the other side, people were trapped. Hana could hear them pounding on the door, screaming for help. Overseer Dralth was there with several guards. He was giving orders. "Clear this area. Everyone back to your stations. There is nothing you can do." "You are just going to leave them?" someone shouted. "The section is compromised," Dralth said coldly. "Opening that door would put the entire ship at risk." "They are already dead. Accept it and move on." The crowd began to disperse slowly. People walked away with their heads down. They knew Dralth was right in his own cruel way. The Varothians did not risk the ship to save a few workers. That was the rule. That was how things worked. But Taemin did not move. He walked up to the sealed door and placed his hand on it. He could feel the heat coming through the metal. On the other side, the trapped workers were still pounding and screaming. "We can save them," Taemin said. Dralth turned to look at him. "What did you say?" "I said we can save them," Taemin repeated. "I can reroute the power systems. I can stabilize the atmosphere. It will take time, but I can do it." "And risk the entire ship?" Dralth said. "No, the order stands. Those workers are expendable. You will return to your station." Taemin looked at Dralth. His eyes were hard and determined. "No," he said. "I am going to save them. With or without your permission." Dralth's claws flexed. "If you disobey my order, I will have you executed." "Then execute me after I save them," Taemin said. He turned and started examining the control panel next to the door. For a moment it looked like Dralth would order the guards to shoot Taemin right there. But then Borum stepped forward from the crowd. "I will help him," Borum said. Dralth looked at Borum in disbelief. "You are as foolish as he is," Borum shrugged. "Maybe. But I would rather be a foolish human than a cold-blooded lizard who lets people die for no reason." 2 more humans stepped forward. Then another. And another. Within minutes, a dozen human workers had gathered around Taemin. They were ready to help, ready to risk everything. Dralth stared at them. He could see the determination in their eyes. He could order his guards to kill them all, but that would leave the ship without its most valuable workers. And deep down, even Dralth knew that the humans were the only ones who could fix things when they broke. "Fine," Dralth said through clenched teeth. "You have 2 hours. If you cannot save them by then, I seal this section permanently. Do you understand?" "We understand," Taemin said. He was already pulling panels off the wall, exposing the wiring underneath. Hana watched as Taemin and the other humans worked together. They moved quickly and efficiently. Taemin gave orders and everyone followed them without question. They trusted him. They believed in him. Hana wanted to help, but she did not know what to do. Then Taemin looked at her. Hana, I need you to go through the maintenance tunnels. There is a secondary control panel in the next section. You need to override the safety locks from there. Can you do it? Hana nodded. Yes, tell me where to go. Taman quickly explained the route. Hana memorized it and ran off. The maintenance tunnels were narrow and dark. They were barely big enough for her to crawl through. The metal was hot and sharp. She scraped her hands and knees, but she did not stop. She found the control panel exactly where Taman said it would be. She opened it and stared at the complex array of switches and wires. For a moment she felt overwhelmed. But then she remembered everything Taman had taught her. She took a deep breath and started working. Back at the sealed door, Taman and the others were working frantically. Time was running out. The trapped workers were running out of air. Taman's hands were bleeding from working with the sharp metal and hot wires, but he did not stop. Power rerouted, Borum said. Atmosphere stabilizing. Good, Taman said. Now we just need Hana to override the locks. In the maintenance tunnel, Hana made the final connection. The control panel lit up green. She had done it. At the sealed door, the locks disengaged with a loud clunk. Taman grabbed the manual release wheel and began turning it. The other humans helped him. Slowly, the massive door began to open. Smoke poured out of the opening. Through it, Taman could see people lying on the floor. Some were moving. Others were not. He rushed inside with the other humans. They began pulling people out, carrying them to safety. Hana crawled back through the tunnels as fast as she could. When she emerged, she saw Taman carrying an unconscious worker. His face was covered in soot and sweat. His hands were burned and bloody, but he was still going, still saving people. Then Hana heard someone call her name. She looked around and saw a young Corinthian woman lying against the wall. The woman's markings were barely glowing. She was barely conscious. Hana ran to her and tried to lift her, but the woman was too heavy. Hana was not strong enough. Help! Hana called out. Taman appeared beside her. Without a word, he lifted the Corinthian woman onto his shoulders and carried her out. Hana followed close behind. They made 3 more trips into Section 7. Each time the smoke got thicker and the heat got worse. The structure was collapsing. Metal groaned and buckled. But Taman kept going. He would not leave anyone behind. Finally, they pulled out the last person. Taman stood at the door and looked inside one more time. Then he sealed the bulkhead shut. The entire section collapsed seconds later. Taman fell to his knees, gasping for air. Hana knelt beside him. Her markings were glowing brightly now. You did it, she whispered. You saved them all. Taman looked at her and smiled weakly. We did it, he corrected. I could not have done it without you. Around them, the rescued workers were being treated by the medical staff. Many of them were staring at Taman and the other humans with something like wonder in their eyes. They had never seen anyone risk so much to save others. Even Overseer Drolth was watching from a distance. His expression was unreadable, but something had changed. Something important. For the first time, the workers of the Kransha had seen what humans were truly capable of. Not cruelty or violence or selfishness, but something else. Something the galaxy had forgotten. Compassion. Velthara's ship was smaller than Tae-Young expected for interstellar travel. It was designed for 1 pilot, maybe 2 if they didn't mind being cramped. For the next 3 weeks, this small metal box would be their entire world. Jiwon had hugged him before they left. Come back, she said. And if you can't come back, make sure they remember humans can't be pushed around. Now, as New Haven disappeared behind them and the stars stretched ahead, Tae-Young wondered if he would ever see home again. He sat in the co-pilot seat watching Velthara work the controls with practiced ease. Tell me about your world, he said after a while. The Korvath homeworld. Velthara's glowing eyes softened. It is called Korvash, a world of red stone and silver rivers. Our cities are carved into mountains, built to last forever. We value strength, honor, and tradition above all else. It sounds beautiful, Tae-Young said. And terrifying. Both, she agreed. The Empress rules from the Tower of Ancestors, where every leader of our people has stood for 3,000 years. She is wise, but also very traditional. Convincing her will not be easy. But you think it's possible? I hope so. The Empress values truth above politics. If we can prove our bond is real, she will recognize it. But many in her court will resist. To them, humans are conquered subjects, nothing more. The days blended together in the confined space of the ship. Velthara taught Tae-Young about Korvath history and culture. He learned about the Empire's expansion across the galaxy, their military traditions, their complex social structure based on warrior castes. In return, he told her about Earth, about its oceans and forests, its diverse cultures, its long history of conflict and cooperation. He told her about human art, music, and literature, about how humans dreamed of the stars long before they could reach them. Your people are survivors, Velthara observed one evening as they shared a meal. Every story you tell is about overcoming impossible odds. Maybe that's because we're smaller and weaker than most species, Tae-young said. We've always had to be clever to survive. Adaptation is our greatest skill. That is why I recognized you, she said softly. You embody that quality. When I saw you fighting with broken weapons, refusing to abandon your friend, finding ways to win despite everything, I saw the soul of a true warrior, not because of strength, but because of will. Their conversations grew deeper as the journey continued. They talked about their fears, their dreams, their regrets. Tae-young told her about the friends he lost in the war, the guilt he carried for surviving when others didn't. Velthara spoke about the doubt that plagued her, the fear that she had destroyed her life for something that might not be real. Do you ever regret it? Tae-young asked one night. Giving up everything for me? Velthara looked at him with absolute certainty. Never. Every moment with you proves I made the right choice. When we fight together, when we talk together, when we simply exist in the same space, I feel complete, as if I had been missing a part of myself and finally found it. Tae-young felt his chest tighten. I feel it too. It's strange. A month ago, I was alone on New Haven trying to forget the past. Now I'm traveling to an alien world with a warrior who claims we're destined for each other. It should feel insane, but it feels right. She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was warmer than he expected, rougher from years of combat training. Whatever happens on Corvash, know that this is real. What we have is real. On the 15th day of their journey, alarms suddenly blared through the ship. Velthara jumped to the controls, her warrior instincts taking over. 3 ships, she said tersely. Corvath military. They're trying to intercept us. More of Draknor's people? Likely. Or others who heard about what happened on New Haven. They want to stop us before we reach the Empress. The ship shook as weapons fire grazed their shields. Velthara's hands flew over the controls, executing evasive maneuvers that would have made Tae-young sick if he wasn't so focused on survival. Can we fight them? 3 against 1? No, we have to run. She pushed the ship harder, diving and weaving through space. But the pursuing ships were faster. Tae-young studied the navigation display. Years of salvage work had taught him to read 3-dimensional space quickly. There, he pointed. That asteroid field. Can we hide in there? It's too dense. We'll be destroyed, but they won't expect us to go there. And I've navigated worse in salvage operations. He looked at her. Trust me. Velthara hesitated only a moment. Then she turned the ship toward the asteroid field. Guide me. I'll handle the flying. They plunged into the field at full speed. Tae-young called out directions using his instinct for 3-dimensional navigation. Left, right, up, spin, dive. Velthara followed his instructions instantly, trusting him completely even when the maneuvers seemed suicidal. The pursuing ships tried to follow, but without Tae-young's guidance, they couldn't match their movements. One ship clipped an asteroid and spun away. The other 2 gave up, unwilling to risk destruction. When they finally emerged from the field, both were breathing hard. Velthara turned to him with wide eyes. That was incredible. How did you know those paths were safe? I didn't, Tae-young admitted. I was guessing based on the patterns I saw. But I knew you could handle whatever I called out. That is the soul bond, she said. Complete trust without hesitation. You knew I would follow your guidance. I knew your guidance would be true. The rest of the journey passed without incident. As they approached Corvash, Tae-young felt his anxiety growing. The planet appeared on the view screen red and magnificent, surrounded by dozens of orbital stations and defense platforms. That's your homeworld, he said quietly. Yes, and now yours too. Perhaps? Velthara sent a signal requesting permission to land. I have identified myself and requested an audience with the Empress. They cannot refuse. I am still a citizen of the Empire, even if I am considered a deserter. Permission came through. They were directed to land at the capital city of Korthai, in the shadow of the Tower of Ancestors. As they descended through the atmosphere, Tae-young saw cities carved into red mountains, silver rivers winding through valleys. massive structures that dwarfed anything on Earth. The Korvath Empire was ancient and powerful, and he was just one human about to stand before its ruler. "I'm scared," he admitted. "So am I," Velthara said. "But we face this together. Whatever happens, we are soul-bound. That is worth any risk." The ship landed in a guarded docking bay. Through the viewport, Tae-Young could see Korvath guards waiting, weapons ready. Beyond them rose the Tower of Ancestors, a massive structure that seemed to touch the sky. "Ready?" Velthara asked. Tae-Young took a deep breath. He thought about Earth, about New Haven, about Jiwan and the colonists who had trusted him. He thought about the 7 years since the war, the pain and loss, and the unexpected hope that had walked back into his life in the form of an alien warrior. "Ready?" he said, and together they opened the door to face their destiny. Scene. Carved from red stone and decorated with silver, it stretched like a cathedral toward the sky. Hundreds of Korvath filled the room, all staring at him as he walked beside Velthara toward the throne. The Empress sat on a throne carved from a single massive stone, wearing robes that seemed to shimmer with captured starlight. She was ancient, her silver markings more complex than any Tae-Young had seen, but her glowing eyes were sharp and clear. Commander Draknor stood to one side, his expression dark. Near him was another warrior, even larger, with markings that suggested she was someone important. "Velthara of the warrior caste," the Empress said, her voice filling the room without seeming loud. "You stand accused of desertion and dishonoring the Sac." The throne room of Empress Carthea was the largest space Tae-Young had ever read concept of soul binding by claiming a bond with a human. "What do you say?" Velthara stood straight, showing no fear. "Empress Carthea, I claim no dishonor. I have found my soul bound, as is the right of every Korvath. That he is human does not diminish the truth of our bond." Murmurs filled the room. Several Korvath looked angry, others merely curious. The Empress raised a hand for silence. "Humans are a conquered species," Draknor said loudly. "They are weak, their technology primitive, their military ineffective. How can such a being be soul-bound to one of our elite warriors?" The Empress turned her gaze to Tae-Young. He felt the weight of those ancient eyes studying him, seeing everything. "Human, you may speak. Tell me why you believe you are worthy of this bond." Tae-Young took a deep breath. Every eye in the room was on him. He was one human standing before the heart of an empire that conquered his world. But he thought about Velthara beside him, about their connection, about everything they had shared. "I don't claim to be worthy," he said, his voice steady. "I'm just a human who fought to protect his home and lost. But 7 years ago, Velthara saw something in me, not because I was strong or powerful, but because I refused to give up, because I fought with everything I had, even when I knew I would lose." He gestured around the room. "You say humans are weak. Maybe by your standards we are. We don't have your strength or your technology, but we survived your invasion. We rebuilt our lives. We adapted and continued. Isn't that strength too? Not the strength to conquer, but the strength to endure." The Empress tilted her head slightly. "Interesting words. But words are easy. Commander Draknor reports that you defeated his simulation through trickery and dishonor." "It wasn't trickery," Tae-Young replied. "It was adaptation. I didn't fight the way Korvath fight because I'm not Korvath. I used the advantages I had. Isn't that what warriors do?" The large warrior near Draknor stepped forward. "I am Veskara, master of combat and teacher to Velthara. If this human claims to be worthy of a soul bond with my student, let him prove it in the traditional way. I challenge him to single combat." Velthara tensed beside him. "Empress, Veskara is the greatest warrior in the Empire. This is not a fair test." "I did not say I would kill him," Veskara said. "First blood only. If he can strike me once, he proves his worth. If not, you return to face judgment for your desertion." The Empress considered this. "The challenge is fair. Human, do you accept?" Tae-Young looked at Veskara. She was huge, easily 7.5 feet tall, muscles like steel cables. He had no chance of beating her in a straight fight. But he had never won straight fights. "I accept." They moved to a large arena beneath the throne room. It was an ancient place carved from stone, where countless warriors had proven themselves over thousands of years. Tae-Young was given a training weapon, balanced and well-made but not deadly. Velthara pulled him aside before the match began. "Listen carefully. Veskara is fast, strong, and has centuries of experience. Do not try to match her strength. Move constantly. Make her chase you. Tire her out. You're giving me advice to defeat your teacher? I want you to survive, she said simply. Remember what I taught you on the journey here. Remember how we fight together. Be unpredictable, the match began. Beskara moved forward with the confidence of someone who had never lost. Her first strike was so fast Tae-young barely dodged it. Her second would have ended the fight if he hadn't thrown himself sideways. The watching Korvath expected the match to end in seconds. But Tae-young didn't fight like a Korvath warrior. He ran, dodged, rolled, and scrambled. He used every bit of the arena, forcing Beskara to chase him. He didn't try to block her strikes because he couldn't. He just avoided them. Stand and fight. Draknor shouted from the observation area. This is cowardice. But the Empress said nothing, watching carefully. Beskara grew frustrated. She increased her speed, putting more power into her strikes. Tae-young took small hits, glancing blows that hurt but didn't stop him. He studied her pattern, looking for any weakness. All warriors had patterns, even the best ones. There. After a certain combination of strikes, she always took a specific step to reset her balance. It was tiny, barely noticeable, but it was there. Tae-young changed his tactics. Instead of just running, he started feinting, making her think he would go one direction, then going another. He forced her to use that combination, waiting for the moment. She struck high, then low, then spun for a sweep. Perfect. As she took that small step to reset, Tae-young did something Velthara had taught him on the ship, a Korvath technique adapted with human unpredictability. He dropped flat, rolled forward between her legs and struck upward as he passed. His weapon touched her calf. First blood, the arena went silent. Beskara looked down at the small mark on her leg, then at Tae-young, who was struggling to his feet, exhausted and battered. She laughed. Not a mocking laugh, but one of genuine respect. Well fought, human. That move rolling through my guard, I taught that to Velthara 15 years ago. But you adapted it, made it your own. That is the mark of a true warrior. She turned to the Empress. I understand now what Velthara saw in him. He does not fight like us, but he fights with honor in his own way. He studies, adapts, and never surrenders. These are warrior qualities, regardless of species. The Empress stood. The entire room fell silent. I have seen enough. This human possesses qualities worthy of respect. He survived a battle he could not win through intelligence and determination. More importantly, I have watched him and Velthara together. They move as one, think as one, fight as one. This is the true sign of soul binding. She looked around the room. We have been arrogant. We conquered humans and called them weak because their technology was inferior. But strength takes many forms. This human has proven that worthiness comes not from power, but from spirit. I declare the bond between Velthara and Tae-young to be genuine and sacred. Any who question this will answer to me personally. She turned to Tae-young. You are the first human to stand in this throne room as an equal. Your people were conquered, but they are not lesser. I will begin negotiations for peace between our species. Perhaps it is time the Empire learned from humans, as we have so much to teach each other. Tae-young felt tears in his eyes. Peace. After 7 years of pain and loss, finally peace. The Empress continued. Velthara, you are restored to your rank and honor. You and Tae-young will serve as ambassadors between our species. Use your bond to build bridges between our worlds. Later, after the ceremony ended and the crowds dispersed, Tae-young and Velthara stood on a balcony overlooking the city of Korthai. The red sun was setting, painting the sky in colors Earth had never seen. We did it, Tae-young said quietly. We actually did it. You did it, Velthara corrected. You stood before the Empire and proved that humans deserve respect. You changed everything. We changed everything, he said, taking her hand. Together, like we were meant to. She smiled and looked at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. 7 years ago, I spared your life and changed mine forever. Today, you saved mine and gave both our peoples a future. This is what soul binding means. We make each other better. We make each other complete. What happens now? Tae-young asked. Now we go back to New Haven. We tell Jiwan and the colonists that humans are no longer conquered subjects, but partners. We begin the hard work of building peace between our species, and we do it together, as we were always meant to. Tae-young thought about Earth, about all the people who died in the war, about the years of pain and struggle. This wouldn't bring them back. But maybe their sacrifice would lead to something better. Maybe humans and Korvath could build something new together. I spent 7 years trying to forget the war, he said, trying to build a quiet life where the past didn't matter. Then you found me and everything changed. Do you regret it? Velthara asked softly. He looked at her, this alien warrior who had given up everything for him, who had stood beside him against her own people, who had believed in their connection when no one else would. Not for a second, he said. They stood together on the balcony, watching the stars emerge one by one, two souls from different worlds connected by destiny or chance or something in between. It didn't really matter which. What mattered was that they had found each other, and in doing so, had given both their peoples hope for a better future. The war was over. The real work of peace was just beginning, and they would face it together as they were always meant to,